founder of the Snaffling Pig. I'll hand it straight over to you. Thank you.
Hello. I think the narcissist in me really wanted to say from zero to hero, but actually having used his system as well for the last 2 years, it has saved me a lot of time and about 30 grand in salaries as well. So it's he's done me a great favour. It's a beautiful system, and especially if you link it in with your receipt bank, it saves you a fortune on expenses. Where's the little gizmo? Is it this, the mouse?
Yes, sorry.
There we go. Cool.
There should be a little mouse thingy.
He's nicked it.
No, hang on, it's there.
Oh, there it is.
There,
awesome.
you don't have to
I judged him too quickly. Okay, so my name is Nick Coleman. I founded a business called Snaffling Pig, and I guess the reason why I'm here is to kind of show you that innovation exists, not necessarily in the Facebooks and Ubers of this world, but in some things that are very simple to do and very cheap to do. And, you know, I'm obviously inspired by those kind of companies, but I don't have that kind of the cash or the brain power to kind of build something like that. So I wanted to create something that was kind of unique in its own way and completely exciting. So, in terms of what we are, what is Snaffling Pig? Well, the actual mission for us is to take the humble, very awesome pork scratching to places it's never been before. And I bet you never thought you'd see a presentation on scratchings. So, who are we? Well, basically, I started a medical business about 7 years ago called Medical Supermarket. And I wanted to change the face of the NHS. I wanted to help save them billions of pounds so they could reinvest that money back into frontline patient care. It was a beautiful vision, but I didn't know how to do it. So I thought the best thing to do was to start very simply and save GP surgeries £1 on every box of paper they bought, and therefore they could spend that £1 on hopefully recruiting a nurse to add more value to the NHS supply chain. But it's a huge vision, and one person like me obviously wasn't enough to do that. So I needed to surround myself with people who are far more intelligent and far better at their jobs than I were at mine. So myself and Udi, who's the guy on the right there, we started Medical Supermarket. And for 7 years, we worked very hard. We've grown it to a very successful company based just in Aylesbury. And we supply probably about 4,000 GP surgeries, care homes, hospitals. Quite quickly, we realised that a toilet roll is a toilet roll. And why can't we sell that to people like KFC or Starbucks? So we pitched it and we won the contracts. And then what we could do is, using the economies of scale, we could save a couple of pennies on a piece of toilet roll, and then we could then help the GP surgery save even more and hopefully reinvest that into frontline patient care. Now, it's a lovely business, but I have to be honest, it does bore me. And I know as an entrepreneur, I probably shouldn't say that. But I think it's really important that when you're passionate about things, that you're very honest and open about what you want to do. And so about 2 years ago, well actually 3 years ago, I spoke to Udi and I said, look mate, I love what I'm doing here. I think we're on the right track, but I don't think I'm really kind of working in the skill set that really suits me, and I really want to start another business. But in order to start another business, I really want to do something I'm incredibly passionate about. And you know, I'd probably like everybody here, food and drink is probably something that everyone's very passionate about. So I wanted to start a food business. And I said to Uds, if I can borrow 500 quid from Snaffling Pig, will you buy me a steak dinner if I can get it to £1 million within 18 months? Of course, he loved the concept because he was also going to benefit from it. And so I started Snaffling Pig, but very quickly knew that I needed more support and experience from external resources in the marketing world, because it's something that I'm just not very good at. So Andy, the guy in the middle, is my marketing director. He's been a lifelong friend, and he is my kind of digital guru. And he helps ensure that we take scratchings online, which is obviously incredibly important. So we are food lovers, but we're not foodies. We're not technical food experts. We're not nutritionists. We just love meat snacks. We love going down the pub, and we love talking about food. And I guess, you know, to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be driven to disrupt. So I do wake up every day, and I do think of amazing, new, innovative ways that I can really piss off my competition. And I'm very driven to doing that, but I'm also more focused on what the customer wants than what my competitors are doing. I do look at my competitors probably once a month, but I look at what my customers are doing every single hour. And we then decided that we'd go on Dragon's Den. I've always been a firm believer, your first business teaches you what to do, your second business makes you famous, and your third business makes you money. So I thought, how could I get the business famous without spending a single penny? And Dragon's Den was a great forum for that. There's been about 700 businesses on the Den, and there's probably only been about 5 businesses that have been successful. 50% of the businesses that apparently get invested in by the Dragons don't actually get invested in real life. So we're going into this with our eyes open, but it managed to get us into 3 million homes, 6 million people watched it, and it did help us get that springboard in terms of PR. But it did not get no one phoned us from any of the supermarkets the next day. I thought that was going to be the case, but we have still had to work bloody hard to get those doors open. So this is a slide, again, I thought you probably have never seen in your life and probably never even thought about it, but there are 3 types of scratchings in this world. There are the traditional scratchings, which you've all seen down the pub. In the middle, there's crackling, which is double cooked, which is a lot softer than you normally expect, but has a crunch that you want. And there are pork rinds, which is basically like a giant quaver, and the Americans spend nearly $500 million on that product. So it is a big market in the US. And in the pub, these things basically look like this. They're in tiny little packets, the see-through packets. They don't look very desirable. They're around £1. I've had this product since I was about 8 years old, playing darts in the pub with my dad, and it's something kind of I've generally grown up on. It's always been focused around the Black Country, because that's predominantly where the product was born at 250 years ago. But across the world, people do spend billions and billions on this product, and it's particularly popular in kind of more of the Spanish cultures, where it's called chicharrones. So I decided I wanted a pork scratching business. I wanted to take on this area because it's something I was incredibly passionate about, and I thought about the times down the pub. So how did I go about innovating in an area that really has never been innovated before? Well, the first thing I did is I wanted to look at who buys scratchings and when. Now, people only buy scratchings in the pub. I think if you go into a supermarket and buy them, and like a big multi-bag, it's pretty rare. So the actual on-trade area for pork scratchings is worth 20 million quid a year, which is not a lot of money. That's not really going to excite me. If I got 10% of that market, which is pretty good going, I'd have a 2 million quid turnover, and that's really not going to do much at all. The grocery area also spends 20 million quid a year. So if I had 10% of both those markets, the best I'd have is 4 million quid turnover. That's really not exciting at all. So the first piece of innovation I looked at was, well, how can I not necessarily grow the category, because I can sell the product to more people, but how can I make people buy this product in a totally different way to what they're used to? And one of the biggest categories out there at the moment is gifting. £20 billion gets spent on gifting each year. And if I can get 10% of that market, I'll be absolutely flying. I don't think I will, but I'll give it a go. So together, this potential opportunity is much, much greater if you look outside of the sector that you're currently supplying in. So we're looking at on-trade, grocery, and gifting. We then look at trends. It's very important that when you're looking at your business, that you look outside of your category. So we sell scratchings, and we therefore look at what everyone else is doing. And we actually got a lot of inspiration from Zero, believe it or not. The amount of data that he has in his business, we thought, well, can we apply that to our business? And I'll talk about what we do later. But we looked outside of the category as well. So there's a lot of flavour inspirations going on at the moment. Everyone's flavouring things. Popcorn, people only spent 50 million on popcorn 2 years ago. They now spend 105 million. The market has absolutely boomed. You'll start to see it really implode as the big guys really try and fight it out. But that was something that just grew from nothing. Julia's here today, who's added chili to soft drinks. You know, soft drinks have bored the hell out of us for years. When you go into a pub, there's only ever Coke or Fanta or lemonade. And it's about time that people take inspiring flavours and add it to stuff and introduce it to markets you just never would have thought. And there's Tom Kerridge down there. Probably some of you in this room have probably bought his dopamine diet book. You know, there is a big surge at the moment in health. But it's interesting, when there's a surge in health, everyone's worried about sugar, and you probably think, well, you're a pork scratching business. Why are you being successful in an area where everyone's looking at health at the moment? Well, when there's always a trend in health, there's always a trend in indulgence. Because if you're going to go to the gym 5 days a week and eat very healthy during the week, on the weekend, you're going to want to spend a little bit more money and get something that's truly delicious because you truly deserve it. So brands like Goo are doing incredibly well, despite them being full of sugar and you know, just beautiful products, but they are growing very rapidly because you do want to spend that little bit more and get something truly wonderful. So the third thing we did is we built infrastructure. It would be great to be a challenger brand, but as Gary said, you know, you can't be a challenger brand if you're not disrupting. Also, you haven't got the distribution that you desperately need. Otherwise, your competitors will have the innovation before you do. So I used the assets that I had in my other business to start this business. And that is, I mean, that's a picture taken from our new warehouse that we moved in October. It's only 5,000 square feet, but there is no pork scratching company out there that has a 5,000 square feet warehouse. We have more technology in our business than any other pork scratching company. But I'm not looking at pork scratching companies because they're stuck in the old days. I'm looking at who else in this room is doing stuff that really excites and inspires me, and how can I kind of sweat those assets and introduce them to my own business as well. And we do a lot of partnerships, and we work with other food brands to kind of, well, we think, well, we've got a warehouse, so why don't we ship your product as well? And together I'm shipping crisps, and I'm shipping peanuts. Technically, they're actually competitors to me, because when you go into a pub, you're either going to have crisps or pork scratchings. You're not going to have both. But I kind of see it as an opportunity to reduce my costs and help expand my distribution. And then we talked about flavours. So I actually think this is an old slide. Yeah, it's fine. So what have we actually done? How have we innovated our products? Well, the first things we took flavours. We decided, let's look at popcorn, let's add flavours to scratchings. So we now do we actually do 11 different flavours of scratchings. We've recently done a tie-up with Unilever and Coleman's. Coleman's is a fantastic, prestigious UK brand, and they've never ever done a license with anybody. And we approached them, big old company like Unilever, and how they held Tesco to account. And we thought, how are they going to take us seriously, a little old company like us? And they actually did, and they gave us a phenomenal deal. And it actually launched on Monday, the Coleman's tie-up. And it's very quickly become our fastest selling line. We did over 3,000 orders on Monday alone, which was just phenomenal. And it's now going to open up doors to many other licensing opportunities as well. You've never seen that in scratchings. No one's ever done a license deal before. We did something with the Olympics. We couldn't call it the Olympics because of trademark issues, so it was the big sporty event that we can't talk about. And we did a turismo, which is a Portuguese term for pork scratching. And we did a lovely, beautiful Brazilian flavour. But it's really important that you use the kind of the seasonality and things that are going on in the world to kind of bring out flavours that kind of excite and inspire. And Brewdog are phenomenal for doing those kind of things. We then looked at formats. Now, scratchings have always been in a see-through bag. And I thought to myself, well, look, if I want to introduce new flavours, I can't afford to spend 10 grand on foil packaging and then get the distribution out to pubs for them to take a punt on it, when I don't know if that flavour is going to work. So how can I get new flavours into pubs without spending any money? Well, the best thing to do is just to give them in a loose bag and give them a glass jar. So we can sample or trial products in a way that no other company can do. I'm not a big fan of going to do market research to 1,000 pubs and asking them a question, what flavour would you like? Instead, I go and make a flavour, I give it to the pub, and if it sells within a couple of weeks, I know it's a goer. So I'm all about, as you mentioned, the minimal viable product, is selling your product before it's really ready to see if it's any good or not. Don't worry about spending loads of time doing analysis, just get on and bloody do it. We then looked at packaging. So we talked about gifting, gift jars. You can't sell pork scratching when it's cased in glass because of all the health and safety issues. Well, why not? Because we're going to ensure that no issues can happen. We're going to be licensed and legislated up to the max and make sure that the glass is completely safe. But there is absolutely no reason why glass cannot be used as a portal to thing pork scratchings in. And that has enabled us to charge a premium, therefore it's enabled us to gain a better margin, but it also enabled us to enter the gifting market. I'm always a big believer that as a singer-song artist, you should always bring out a Christmas single, because, Noddy Holder gets 480 grand a year, every single year from that song. And I thought, well, can I do something like that? And then I thought to myself, well, no, I can't really bring out a song, but what's the next best thing? And the next best thing is an advent calendar. No one has ever put pork scratchings into an advent calendar. So we did just that. And advent calendars are always A3. So I thought, why isn't it A4? Sorry, they're always A4. Why isn't it A3? And so we made it A3, 2 inches thick, and we put little packets of scratchings in each advent. And we bought 12,000. It was a cost to us about 50 grand to get it going. And it was wonderful because about 3 weeks later, Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield are on ITV this morning, and they've picked this as one of the best advent calendars for the year. And within a day, we sold all 12,000, which was a logistical nightmare, I cannot tell you. And then John Lewis picked up the phone, and they have listed it for this year. They've ordered 40,000, Debenhams have ordered 10,000, and I've got another order for 50,000. That's 900 pallets of stock of advent calendars that I'm going to have to distribute. I will potentially make more money on this advent calendar than the second largest pork scratching company turns over in a year. And this is the market, and I'm not cannibalizing the industry. That pork scratching guys don't even know I exist, because they're just not in this field at all. Any Nielsen reports only look at supermarkets, and I'm not in a supermarket. So, and when I come back to innovation, think about how you can make money in ways that no one has ever made money before. And then I also thought about, well, we all eat salads. You know, I think during the week it's very important we eat salads. And then the Dopamine Diet book came out from Tom Kerridge, and he had pork scratchings for breakfast every day. And I thought, well, how can you add pork scratchings to your breakfast? And I thought, well, if you bash up a pork scratching and sprinkle it on top of eggs or on top of salads, you basically get a protein version of a crouton. And if you don't add any salt to it whatsoever, it's actually not that unhealthy at all. So on the right-hand side here, you see this bare naked pork, and it is a pot. It's a 50-gram pot that's going into Waitrose in the salad section, and it's going to start to compete with the crouton. And that has now led to a recipe book that's going to come out at Christmas, where we're going to talk about how you can add scratchings to things like pork loin, or instead of rolling a Scotch egg in breadcrumbs, you can roll it in pork scratchings. And it's starting to make people think a little bit different about this product, because at the end of the day, it is a byproduct. No pig has ever died making our product. And honestly, it's the truth. They get turned into sausages, and the skin gets left on the side, and that's what we do. So I've talked about kind of taking it to a place it's never been before. We are desperately trying to be kind of the person to go to when it comes to pork scratchings. And so we get interviewed by the likes of the Times, the Telegraph, and all that kind of good stuff. But we're also getting interviewed on YouTube, and lots of reviews are taking place about us. It's then about brand stretch. So pork scratchings are great. Yeah, I might get 10% of the pork scratching industry and a bit of gifting, but what else can I be doing? So we've launched a beer, which is going incredibly well. We've got a hot sauce. We're going to start to go into rubs and dips. And then we're going to go into services. So there is absolutely no reason why in 18 months' time, if any of you are getting married and you want a hog roast, you won't have the Snaffling Pig hog roast there. It'll be a franchise thing. It'll be very similar to the Virgin balloons, where we won't actually be the hog roast, but we'll put our name on the balloon and give the guys all the support they need. But it's about making things different and accessing new categories and industries to be able to drive your brand across it all. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. It's a whistle-stop tour, really. Thank you very much. No, okay, yeah.
No, Nick, thanks so much. And to take us up to coffee then, the floor is open to you to ask questions and probe this further. So one here from Alistair, the mic at the front here, and then Ian there. I think those two.
Nick, marvellous talk. What other names did you think of before you came up with Snaffling Pig, which I think is wonderful?
Ha!
Okay, and we'll take Ian's. Say who you are.
That's my bad. There we go. Ian, I work at the Community Foundation. It's very reassuring to hear that no pigs are harmed in the production of pork scratchings. Being a vegetarian, I wonder how you're going to attack the vegetarian market.
Yep, very good question. Good question. It's like you've been planted here, because I'm going through, well, I'm always going through some kind of trademark disputes. I think as a challenger brand, you're always going to annoy some people. And so the very first brand that I came up with, I thought it was wonderful, and then subconsciously I'd stolen it from somebody else. So we were originally called Giggling Pig, and we very quickly got cease and desist letters at the very beginning of our cycle. So we stopped trading in that name. We then quickly turned over our packaging into the new name. And I think, you know, as a startup, you do get hurdles and barriers like that, but it's very important you react very quickly. And when you start a brand that when I mentioned about when you want to introduce new flavors, that you start by just doing the minimal viable product, it's very cheap for you to change things very quickly. And right, that doesn't work, that works, and keep moving along. Now we've got trademark issues because we're on telly, because somehow subconsciously we stole someone's logo. So we're now going through having to totally rechange the look of the brand as well. But we're very open about this kind of stuff. We're not perfect. We make loads of mistakes, and I'll continue to make mistakes. But I think that's kind of what makes it really exciting. And when I picked up the phone to the guy who's suing me and said, I made a mistake, it was not intentional, I'm not a nasty guy, I'm just learning. And they were absolutely great with it. So we've then worked out this kind of 9-month procedure where we can work together to try and phase out our old brand and introduce a new one. But we will keep the name still, we just have to change the look. Cool. Yes, I did. Yeah, it's an important market, but I think what's also very important is you stay true to yourself and you're not all things to all people. And so actually pork scratchings are not good in a lot of areas, like if you don't drink, that kind of area, vegetarians, religious reasons, cultural regions, health regions. So we aren't all things to all people. However, we will bring out a crisp, which is a vegetarian pork scratching.
Any further questions? Okay, one down here. Get the mic there. Anybody else? And one at the back there.
You would.
Just 4 rows in. Great.
Hi, I'm Jodie Hughes from Entrepreneurial Spark. I work with a number of food startups, and they have the barrier of they want to grow, but they need investment. Did you need, apart from your £500 seed funding, I'm guessing you needed quite a lot of funding to go forward with where you're at now?
Not huge amounts, no. When we started with the 500 quid, I spent it all on getting a logo designed, which is very silly, shouldn't have done that at all. So the next thing I then did is I then borrowed my own 500 quid to then start it properly. So I went to a supplier, found them on Google, got someone to make the product, bought some seasoning, and then bought some little brown bags from the website, like 20 quid, and then I walked pub to pub. It took me 4 hours to make 30 bags, and I sold them in 10 minutes. So I was actually annoyed that I sold them so quickly, because then I had to go make more. So I wish it would kind of take a little bit longer. And then, so once I figured that out, I then said to my manufacturer, well, instead of me doing little bags, let's do a sack, and let me go down to Homebase, and I'll buy a glass jar, and then I'll start selling that. It wasn't until I was turning over about 500 quid a day that I then realised I needed to spend a little bit more money, at which point I had 3 business partners. We all put 3 grand in, and then we started it. Now, we took investment from Nick Jenkins and Dragon's Den, and I had this beautiful plan, 70 grand he gave us, right, I'm going to spend it on PR and marketing and all lovely good things. And then we grew too quick, and it's all in stock. So I've actually never been able to spend any money on marketing. All our stuff we do is for free. So the most important thing is get your cash flow right, and we're very, very careful with that. We pay everyone on 60 days, and we get credit cards up front. So we have 60 days of cash. If my turnover is 50 grand, that means I've got 100 grand in my bank, always ready to spend on something.
Thank you, that's really useful.
Yeah, and the back there.
My name is Julia, I'm from Nicks and Kicks. I'm going to be speaking in a second. Nick, it's always a pleasure to listen to you and to learn from you. You're such an inspiration. And one thing which absolutely amazes me is the speed of how you launch products and launch them into market, because we just did a rebrand and it took us 9 months to reformulate and bring out, different pack sizes. But the amount of speed, you have an idea and you bring it to market really quickly. How do you do that?
I really annoy my business partners. So we brought out the crumb. We're bringing out the crumb. And then 2 weeks ago, I thought we should really do a recipe book. And I'm terrible for this, but I will book the meeting with the publisher. And then I'll say to Andy, I'm taking you on a drive today. And then, what are we doing? And then I'll drive into the publisher, and he walks in. We're meeting a publisher talking about a recipe book. And he's like, oh, my God. And you've got to take people along on the journey with you. That is what I do. I run at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but I surround myself with people who pick up the pieces and help me deliver what I'm trying to do. And I'm very, very careful of that. But because it's important that you don't run too quickly. You've got to do what's right for your brand. You've got to do one thing very, very well, and then use that to springboard to other things. And I'm forever being told, Nick, don't bring out beer. Don't do this, don't do that. But as long as you do it very easily, like the beer, for example, go on Google, find a brewery in the local area, which there are loads of, say to them, if I give you a bunch of labels, will you stick your label on your best-selling beer? They'll say yes. Then buy a pallet of it, which costs you 1,500 quid, ta-da, you've got a beer line. So don't overcomplicate it. But when it comes to branding change, my business partner, Brig Andy's working on this brand for 9 months. He's got another 9 months to go. That is a big, big decision to do. But, if you want to launch crisps tomorrow, there's 3 guys who make crisps in the UK. 2 months later, you'll have a crisp line. So most food brands out there don't make their own products. It's someone else who does it for them, who have got all the infrastructure. You just have to have the idea in the first place. But that's why we love what we do, don't we? Because we can innovate so quickly. Good.
Indeed, the theme of this conference. One more. Yeah, at the back there.
Thank you. Hi, Nick. I'm James Wilkes. I was born and raised in the Black Country,
Yes.
so I'm very glad you gave a nod. Dudley boy, I now work in international shipping, so a bit of a distance from that. I want to know how you have turned what is, for me, a working class snack into seemingly a posh middle class snack, or avowedly middle class now that you're moving it out to the Black Country. How have you managed that transition?
So the first answer is we are absolutely not posh. And any pork scratching brand that you see out there at the moment that is not us and is not the traditional, are all going down the posh route. You've got Awfully Posh, you've got Mr. Trotter, who's owned by Camilla Parker Bowles' son. And we are not. We are a premium brand that believes in good flavours, and we price it accordingly. So our bag is £1 in a pub, and a normal bag of scratchings is £1. A normal bag of scratchings has 45 grams in it, ours has 50, so actually we're probably a little bit better value. Most people who eat this product are typical normal people, and so therefore that's who we market it towards. And we're very careful. If you look at all our branding, it is all about fun and kind of taking the piss out of ourselves, and a nod to British heritage and where the product has come from. And it is about kind of our normal lives than it is about being posh. So we're very careful about that.
But you're still selling it in kilo jars.
Yeah, we're still selling it. Yeah, but then we also sell it in foil. So we give you an opportunity to buy it across a whole different plethora of ways. So yeah, you can get us in Selfridges. So, there is one in Birmingham. Yeah.
From Dudley to Selfridges. Yeah. Nick, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to say, as we bring this session to a conclusion, that Snaffling Pig Delights pork scratchings will be available, courtesy of Nick, for you to have with your coffee. So if you haven't tried them, you will be able to sample them on the way out. Let me just say, on behalf of us all, I mean, you will have each taken away your own insights and learnt, I hope, a lot of new things. I certainly have, whether it's been progress over perfection, or finding disruption before it finds you, or driven to disrupt. I think there have been some terrific messages about innovation, about collaboration, and about acceleration, which is what this event's about. And I just think, for me as a 64-year-old woman who wishes I could be 20 again and be an entrepreneur, really, the openness, the way in which these businesses, as you've heard today, are prepared to learn from each other, share their ideas with each other, rather than kind of keep it all closed in and think, well, I couldn't let my competitor know what I'm doing. I think it's truly, truly inspiring. You know, that is the modern business world that is represented by all of you entrepreneurs and business startups and business growths here today. I do think that post-Brexit, we have got something really positive in terms of the potential for the economy to grow. I like the attitude. I really appreciate the way you have shared with us. So for Nick,